Well, I'm glad you're all here today. I'm going to start and just kind of jump right in. But if there's questions along the way, I want you to feel very comfortable to ask as we go forward. So today we're going to talk about taking charge of your career through business ownership, why you would consider owning your own business, what does it look like owning a business versus taking your next role, what are the different options out there in small business ownership, creating a semi-absentee business, some of the myths about franchising, and then how to find the right business or franchise fit. So just to share a little bit more about my background, I started out as a small business owner back in 96, started a company called The Hungry Heart in the health and wellness space, started opening up locations throughout Southern California, and then I franchised my business. Ran it for over 20 years and then reached a point where I got to a certain level of success and found that I was enjoying my business, but I decided I really enjoyed helping people. And so I set my franchisees up so that they can continue to run and operate their business. And then I started working with individuals that wanted to get into business ownership, but didn't know where to start. So I'd learn about their background, their skill set, their interests, their lifestyle and financial goals, build out a business model for them, and then identify franchises where people like them were top performers. And then I connect them with those companies. I work with a whole team of professionals in the franchise space and really teach clients how to vet franchises and really learn what it takes to be successful in those systems. So it's been a very rewarding career. I'd say about 10% of outplaced executives have thought about owning their own business. They just really didn't know where to start or what would be a good fit for them. My services are free to clients that I work with. I take clients through a step-by-step process to really learn about business ownership and franchising and see if this is a good fit for them. The nice thing is that it's a free service. I work very similar to the way a real estate agent or a recruiter works, that I'm paid a referral fee from the franchisor for candidates that move forward through the process. So the nice thing is for candidates, there's no expense related to working with me. It doesn't change anything from their side of the house. And for franchisors, there's not an expense until they have a candidate they're excited to work with in a market that they're looking forward to being in. So it's a nice win-win for both parties. So a lot of times I'll ask clients why they want to own their own business and what does that personally bring to them. And for everyone, it's a little bit different, but these are some of the things that we'll hear pretty regularly. You know, that personal feeling of success or fulfillment, being able to run and operate their own schedule and have that flexibility and independence, being able to control their own financial future, not dealing with layoffs, being able to make more money. So these are the common things that we'll hear pretty regularly from individuals who decided to move forward with owning their own business. So then why then do most people choose to work for someone else, right? What are those key things that we hear pretty regularly, right? That sense that a job is safer, time in the economy, more recently, what about COVID, right? So that issue of fear, risk, do I have the money that it takes to build up a successful business? Do I have the knowledge base or the skill sets? Right? When you're a small business owner, you have to wear a lot of different hats to get that business up and going. And so a lot of times people question, do I have what it takes to build a successful brand? So when you look at taking a next role, right, a lot of times people are very aware of what it takes to do that position, what time commitment, what kind of earnings they can make, what the opportunity looks like. The challenge that we're seeing is a lot of these top roles are just not staying around as long as they used to. That 18 to 36 month window seems to be what the length of a lot of top positions are. When you compare that to when you start your own business, a lot of times, right, when you first get up and going, there's a lot of trial and error. There's a lot of grunt work. It takes time to get it dialed in, get your systems, your processes, your people in place. But the longer that business is in play, the more you have a business that you can count on from an income standpoint, from a commitment standpoint. And if there's challenges coming down the runway, whether it's in the industry or with your business, you have that time frame to plan accordingly. A lot of times when people's jobs go away, a lot of times they may be caught off guard and don't have that runway to plan. So many times people will talk about opportunities for their retirement. So looking at the equity in their home, change of investments, change in jobs, change in industries as vehicles to help them with retirement. So today we're going to talk about business ownership as a vehicle to help in retirement. So I want to share a case study of an associate of mine who owned multiple UPS stores. And he actually started back in '87, ran his business for over 20 years. And I always like to share this example because it's kind of interesting. You're able to take money out in salary and profit. You have a lot of write-offs you're able to take advantage of. When you work for someone else, you don't necessarily have a lot of write-offs that you can take advantage of. The company gets to take advantage of those write-offs. But if you have your own business, a lot of times there's a lot of tax benefits you can leverage. And then when you build a business up, you have a sellable asset, right? So you have a business that you can either sell the business, get it to a certain income level, and then sell it, and then use that income towards retirement. Or you can build a business up, put a manager in place, and manage that manager that runs the day-to-day operations of your business and keep it long-term as a strategy as retirement income. Or potentially bring a family member involved. Sometimes people get their kids or other family members into their business. But regardless, you have a business that built up that can be a long-term income stream for you into retirement. So this franchisee, he actually owned 5 units of a UPS store back in the day. And he had a semi-absentee business model where he had a manager running the day-to-day operations, and he oversaw that manager. So it's kind of a nice setup that he had. So a lot of times people ask, well, what kind of business can I get into that I can minimize my risk? Right. So it's not surprising the senior care space is a big space, not going anywhere anytime soon. Our kids' education, right? It's amazing as parents what we will spend to help our kids get ahead. And then essential services like hair care, right? You've got to get your hair done locally. It's not going overseas. Got to get our vehicles taken care of locally. Damage restoration is a very big industry. A lot of times what happens with damage restoration, people think, well, that doesn't sound like a very sexy industry, but then they start looking at the profit margins and then they get pretty interested to learn more. And then because we see a lot of growth in small business ownership, we see growth in businesses that support small business owners. So things like sales, marketing help, services, we see a lot of growth in. So for instance, if you're a small business owner and you have challenges with your computers, right, you're not necessarily in a position to have tech team on staff, but if you have a problem, you need a third-party vendor or someone to help you with that. So businesses that support small business owners, we see a lot of growth in. So you basically have 3 different ways that you can get into business ownership. You can build your own business from scratch, you can buy an existing business, or you can buy a franchise. So the advantage of building your own business is you get to be in complete control, you get to make all the decisions, good and bad, you get to own them. You can leverage your own creativity and your own ideas. You get to make the rules, good and bad. You get to own those. And there can be some pretty large upscale financial opportunities. And you can pick a business that you had a personal interest or passion in. Some of the challenges with building your own business is that you do have to create the systems and the processes. It takes time to get them dialed in. Banks are not necessarily so excited to talk to you because you're not a proven entity yet. It can be a slower ramp up, right? It takes time to get all those processes dialed in and your people in place. And because of these things, we see a higher failure rate with independent businesses versus franchise businesses. When you compare that to buying an existing business, the nice thing with existing businesses, you can see what the true cash flow is of the business. You can see if they have goodwill in the community and their online reputation. And you can actually take a look at those financial and see historically how well they've been doing. And because of that information, it makes them a lot more attractive to lenders. You can also see in the market what type of customer base have they been doing business with, how do they do more business with that customer base, and then how do they find more of those same type of customers. And then hopefully you have some good, strong, solid employees in place. That's very important that you have a good team behind you. You want to make sure that you have very strong systems and processes that if key employees left, you want to know who you need to hire and how to train them and get them up to speed quickly and effectively. And then owner financing is sometimes an option, but not always. Some of the challenges with buying an existing business is knowing what the true cash flow is, right? Small business owners are used to throwing everything in the kitchen sink into their books, right? So you want to get to know what those true numbers are. And then is it goodwill out in the community? Is it bad will out in the community? Is there some reputation cleanup work that needs to get done? And then what's fair price for the business, right? A seller can have one idea, a buyer can have a completely different idea. You don't want to overpay. And even if you have a proper business valuation done, a seller could say, well, that's great, but this is my number. Take it or leave it. So you don't want to overpay. So it's important that you do your due diligence around that. And then what's the real reason that business is on the market? Why is that owner looking to sell? Right? Are they looking to retire? Is there a health issue? Is there a life change situation going on? Or is it something coming down the pipeline in the industry or the business that they don't want to deal with and they'd rather exit? And then what's the game plan for the employees? Where's their loyalty? Is it to the business? Is it to the business owner? Will they potentially become your competitor? Right? So you want to know what that game plan is for those employees. And then is there debt service that needs to be paid attention to? Right? So you want to take a look at that. And then you want to make sure that you have very strong training and support, that if key employees exit, you need to have a way to get them trained and up and going quickly and effectively. And if that owner is not there, if that business is dependent on the personality or the skill set of that business to run properly, you do not have a business to buy. Very important that that business can run and operate without the personality or the skill set of that owner. So in comparison, if we look at buying a franchise, the advantages of a franchise system is you're basically taking advantage of that brand name, that trademark, that whole proven business model, that you can see how well that business is running and operating in all different parts of the country, and then bring that education and information into your local market. The franchisor's role is to provide franchisees that initial training and support to fast track you into business ownership, and then help you grow and scale your business. And then you're able to leverage those marketing expertise that you can see have worked very well in other parts of the country, and bring that education and information into your local market. And then you're part of a larger purchasing power group, right? When you're an independent business owner, you don't necessarily carry a lot of clout when you go to negotiate terms. But when you're part of a franchise system, many times the franchisor has negotiated those terms for their franchisees and able to get you things at much steeper discounted prices than you could do on your own. And then also, as an independent business owner, if you run into some challenges with your business, you can't necessarily call a competitor down the street and say, hey, how would you handle this? But with a franchise system, you not only have the support of the franchisor, you have the support of all the other franchisees in the system. And that's huge. So being able to have that support when you're going through challenges or have opportunities, right, are going to help you grow and build your business. And so because of these things, we see a lower failure rate with franchise businesses versus independent businesses, and lower costs just because someone else has negotiated many of those terms ahead of time so that you don't have to do that effort yourself. And because of all these things, we see a number of different financing options, like the SBA, the Small Business Administration, is very pro-franchising. They've invested in them before. They've gotten their money back. They'll invest in them again comfortably. And then franchisors are really big in terms of identifying what criteria they need to have a successful location. But to me, the most valuable part of being part of a franchise system is being able to do your research or due diligence before you'd invest in the business. So all franchises have what's called a franchise disclosure document, and it has all the details about the franchise. So it's a regulated document. It's regulated by the Federal Trade Commission. And it'll share who the key management team is, who the owners are, have they had any bankruptcy or litigation, what are the responsibilities of the franchisor, what are the responsibilities of the franchisees, what's your initial investment, all in, itemized out. About 80% of them will have an earnings claim. So you can see what do the top franchisees do, what do the bottom ones or the young ones do, what's middle of the pack look like. So you can have a realistic idea, if you were to invest in that business, what kind of money you could potentially make. But to me, the most valuable information in that franchise disclosure document is that it has a list of all the existing franchisees in that system and anyone that's left the system in the last 3 years with their contact information. So you're able to reach out and talk to them before you invest in the business. And franchisees are pretty candid. I mean, they will share with you the good, the bad, the ugly, of what it's like to run and operate those businesses. And many times clients are pretty surprised at how candid they are. But it's in everyone's best interest that new potential franchisees really know what they're getting into before they'd invest. So buying into a franchise system is knowing that there has to actually be a franchise system that was created in that industry for it to be available. And you have to be someone that's willing to follow a proven business model, right? If you always feel like you could build a better mousetrap, you're probably better off starting your own business or finding a business that you can leverage your own ideas and skills. Franchisors are looking for people that want to follow their proven business model. And then there's territory restrictions. right? So, for instance, I had a client who's very interested in a Johnny Rockets franchise. And I shared, well, it's not available in your market. And he said, well, what are you talking about? And I said, well, someone already bought the rights to it. They bought the rights to open up 5. They've opened up 2. They opening up a new one every year, year and a half. So there's not one yet in your market, but it is coming. And then you can only sell products or services that the franchisor approves of. So if you want to bring in a new product or service, it does need to go through an approval process. And then you pay an initial franchise fee and ongoing royalties. So initial franchise fees could be anywhere in that $40,000 to $60,000 range. Now, that's not profit to the franchisor. It's really their cost of finding the right people, getting them trained and supporting them and get them up and going. Where they make their money is in the royalties. So the more successful you are, the more successful they are. So sometimes clients will ask, well, one franchisor charges 6% and another charges 8%. So shouldn't I just go with the one that charges less? And what I'll share with clients is not necessarily. You want to find out what you get for those fees and what existing owners feel about it. So if existing owners feel like they get a lot of support, they're more than happy to pay those fees. They feel like it's been a great win-win environment. Terrific. Or do they feel like, you know what, I'm not getting my calls answered. I'm not getting the support that I need. They resent cutting those checks every month. I'm not saying because you pay more, you get more. But what I am saying is you need to find out what you're getting for those fees and what existing owners feel about it. So franchising is basically an environment where you're trading that brand name, that true product and system, that whole process that they put together, that business system, in exchange for those initial fees and royalties. And a lot of times clients will ask me, well, if it's such a great concept, why do they go through the process of franchising? Why not just bring it out to the market directly? And basically what franchisors are doing is they're taking advantage of someone else's hard work, their time, their finances in their local market in exchange to get their brand name out quickly and effectively. So they're going from running and operating these type of businesses to supporting people that are running and operating these businesses. And that's a very different role. So you have a number of different choices. You can have a business that's a single unit operator, multi-unit operator where you have multiple units of the same type of business. You potentially have a manager overseeing multiple locations. A passive play is a business where maybe it's more of a real estate opportunity. And then area development is where maybe you buy the rights to an entire county or city or state, and then you open up 1 or 2 locations. And then you help the franchisor find additional franchisees, and then you help train and support them and get them up and going in business. And for those efforts, you get a royalty split with the franchisor. So you get to split and earn money for training them. And then master franchising is when you take that concept overseas and run and operate the business in a different country. So in that franchise disclosure document, it has all the details about the franchise. There's 2 sides to it. One is I'm disclosing all the information about the franchise, and the second side is the agreement. It's basically the same information, just one in a disclosure format, and the other is in the agreement. And the nice thing is you can see all the information about the business, how well the franchisor is doing, how well the franchisees are doing. About 80% of them will have an earnings claim, so you can see what do those top franchisees do, what do the bottom ones do, what's the middle of the pack look like. So you can have a realistic idea of what kind of money existing owners are making. But being able to talk to existing franchisees is very important because you might be excited about the kind of money owners are making. But if doing the activities that it takes to be successful in that business is not a good fit for you, might not be the right match. So very important. All right, so let's talk about some basic franchising myths. So franchising industry, you think it's only in fast food or retail type space, right? So a lot of times people are very familiar with food, fast food and retail, but not necessarily as familiar with service-based, home-based professional industries. There's about 3,800 franchise companies out there in about 90 different industries. So business to business to consumer, there's a lot of opportunities in. Franchises succeed because of the quality of their product, right? So it's always interesting about that. And we'll always tease, people and say, well, you can make a better burger than McDonald's. So why then do most people, choose to invest in McDonald's franchise? And the reason is they're basically leveraging that whole proven business system that they bring to the table and that stability of the environment. All right, successful startups emerge in new industries with no new competitors. So let's talk about that. So I always like to share the example of the massage space, right? You've got companies like Massage Envy, Massage Heights, right? So they're They actually have a small percentage of the overall massage space, but they create a very cost-effective massage environment for um, potential people to use, as well as create an environment where you have people that know how to run and operate businesses, where people who can like to do the massages can run and operate day to day. And then the consumer can take advantage of a cost effective massage. So they didn't create the industry, but what they did do very effectively is consolidate it. And so I'll always tease that Subway didn't invent the sandwich and Starbucks didn't invent coffee. Now, Starbucks didn't invent coffee, and they're not a franchise here in the US, but they did change how we buy coffee, right? So it's kind of interesting. I would always look back and think my mom would go to a diner for lunch, and some poor waiter would have to refill her watered down cup of coffee over the course of her hour 4 or 5 times. And now you have a teenager buying a sugared cup of coffee for about $5, $6 to go, right? So Starbucks didn't invent the coffee, but they did change how we buy. Right, franchises are expensive. Right? So this is one I'll always get some mixed reviews on, and people aren't sure what to think. So it's kind of interesting. About 30% of them are under that $100,000 mark. Service-based, home-based, professional industries will be on that lower investment level. That 100 to 250K range, we'll see businesses where maybe you have a few key employees, maybe they have certain skills, maybe a small office space. The 250 to 500K range might be small retail front type businesses. And then over 500K will be those larger retail plays. So the SBA, we were talking about earlier, Small Business Administration, they're very pro-franchising. They've invested in them before. They've gotten their money out. They're willing to invest in them again. They're looking for a credit score of about 680 plus. They're looking for you to put about 25, 30% in. They'll put it about 70, 75% in. They want you to have some skin in that game. Other areas that people will get funding, personal savings, friends, family, HELOCs, financial institutions. Seller financing with resale sometimes there's an option, but not always. And then one area you guys may be familiar with, but you may not be familiar with in this environment, 401k or IRA rollovers, where you're able to take funds in your retirement plan, roll them over into a C corporation, buy stock in your company, and then use those funds to run and operate your business. The advantage is it's interest-free, it's tax-free, there's no penalty. You can pay it back, you cannot pay it back. You can pay it back at any time frame. It's your money. So a lot of times clients will take advantage of this opportunity. There are a lot of requirements to meet to be able to take advantage of it. And so I always put clients in touch with companies that specialize in this area. But if I talk to 5 different clients, I will get 5 different approaches to how to fund their business. All right, high return requires a high investment. So a lot of times people have mixed feelings on this, but really, there's no direct correlation between how much you invest in the business and how much that business can earn. So if you think about it, service-based, home-based, professional industries, typically a lower investment level, typically lower employee count, typically selling higher price point product or services. If I compare that to a business where you need real estate, you need a physical location, it takes a build out, you have to find the location, typically hiring a larger team, typically selling lower price point product or service. Now, at the end of the day, financially, you can get to the same point, but there's no correlation. If you invest more, you'll earn more. It's more a factor of what that business can do and how it gets there. All right, last one. Industry experience is required. I think franchisors are looking for people who know to cut hair or give a massage or do plumbing. Right? And really what franchisors are looking for is they're looking for people with basic business skills, management skills, communication skills. And you'll hire the talent of the people that run the day-to-day of what that business does, and they'll handle those activities. So franchising is basically an environment where the franchisors bring the initial training and support, that brand name recognition, the sales and the marketing that you can see how well it's worked in other parts of the country. And they have what's called an operations manual. An operations manual will have all the details of what it takes to run and operate that business step by step by step. So not only will they train you and support you to get you up and going, they'll provide you an operations manual that walks you through everything you need to know. And then you have that whole culture of teamwork, right? That collective energy of not only the working with the franchisor, but the franchisees as well. So the key thing is that you're in business for yourself, but not by yourself. So it's kind of a hybrid environment between a corporate environment and true entrepreneurship. So when I work with clients, one of the things we'll talk about is what you're looking for from that business. What are you looking for to accomplish for yourself? And for everyone, that's a little bit different, but you want to know what that is for yourself so that you know once you've built it, it will have actually accomplished it. And then what are the skill sets that you bring to the table, right? You want to leverage your strengths and take advantage of them. And if you hate sales, for instance, you don't want a business that's going to require you as an owner to be in that sales role, right? You want a business that's you're going to take advantage of what you're good at, and you can either hire people to do the activities you don't enjoy, or it's something the franchisor will take care of for their franchisees. And then what are your personal business preferences, right? And for everyone, that's a little bit different, but you really want to know what's right for you. Because sometimes clients say, well, I have a friend that owns this type of business. They're doing really well. So shouldn't I just invest in that type of business? And not necessarily, because if it's not a good fit for you and you're not enjoying the type of people you're building relationships with, how you're spending your time and your energy, what you're doing with your business, then, you're going to call me in a year and say, hey, I'd like to exit. Right. So even though a business has good financial opportunities, if it's not a good fit for your personal criteria, it may not be a good business to buy. And then a lot of times people ask me, well, what kind of business can I make the most money in or ramps up the fastest? Right? So you want to feel comfortable with that risk level of what it takes to, get there financially. I want you to sleep at night. I want your families to sleep at night. I want to sleep at night. Right. So you want to have a good understanding of what that ramp up time looks like and what it takes to be successful in that system. And the nice thing is you can get a good sense of that by talking to existing owners and see what it took to get there and make sure it's a good fit for you from a risk standpoint as well. And making sure it's a business that you'll truly enjoy, right? We spend a lot of time working. You want to enjoy the activities that you're doing on a day-to-day basis and the people you're building the relationships with, right? So a lot of times people will ask, well, what's hot right now? And what I'll share with them is you don't necessarily want that, right? You want what's going to go the distance for you, not something that's going to be a quick turnaround situation. And you want to make sure it'll meet your personal, financial, and lifestyle goals. Sometimes people are attracted to certain industries because they have a personal interest, maybe on a hobby level, or think it's a great space to be in. But you want to make sure it's going to meet your lifestyle and financial goals. And then do you have family support, right? When you first get up and going, right, you need those cheerleaders around you to help you and support you get up and going. And potentially you might have some free labor there that you could take advantage of. So the key thing is never settling for something that's not a good, strong, solid fit for you all the way around. Now, nothing's ever going to be 100%, but we do want it 85, 90% to be a good, solid fit for you. So the first step in my process is to take the personal franchise assessment. It takes about 15, 20 minutes. But from that assessment, I then typically will spend about 15 to 30 minutes to walk you through its findings and then help you identify next steps from there. If you'd like to connect on LinkedIn, here's my LinkedIn address. I'll open it up to questions